I never thought that I would say these or these words would be uttered out of my mouth, but I would seriously consider getting this mid-size truck. The 2023 GMC Canyon has just been released. I have all the information. It is amazing. The best interior I've ever seen in a truck, period, bar none, in one of these trucks. Not to mention, I even have some pricing for you, what I didn't have on the Chevy Colorados. I can't wait to share all this with you. So with that, let's get going. Before we get into this new Canyon, I had the opportunity, you may have seen on this channel, back in May to head to San Diego, California to drive the all-new AT4X GMC Sierra, the full-size AT4X. Well, during that time, I also had the opportunity and one evening to have discussions with Duncan Aldred, who's the VP, the Vice President of GMC Global, and I was trying to get out of him any sort of information I could on the Canyon because I knew it was about to come out anytime soon. I didn't know at that time the date it was going to be released. And during our discussions, of course, he didn't tell me anything. He was very tight-lipped. But what he did say was to be prepared because this is one of the most amazing trucks that they have made. And I have to agree with him. And you're going to see as this video goes on, there is some amazing things about this new 2023 GMC Canyon. So here's the thing. First and foremost, this is not your Chevrolet Colorado. I know we just talked about this truck a few days back. It's an amazing truck, but the GMC is a different truck. Yes, they share some similarities. Of course they do. They do as far as the full-size lineup as well. But like the full-size lineup, GMC is definitely trying to differentiate themselves from Chevrolet and the Chevrolet lineup, and they've definitely done so with this new Canyon because there's some new features in this truck that you're not seeing in that Chevy Colorado. And by the way, if you want to see more videos like this, more intro videos, more videos of new product and new features on the GMC Sierra Chevy Silverado trucks, please be sure to hit that subscribe and hit the like button if you like this video. It only helps me out. And now, like the full-size trucks, GMC is basically also trying to go for the more luxury truck market. The luxury mid-size truck, in this case, of course, is what they're after. So they don't really have a base trim level anymore. So you're going to have 4 different trim levels, 4.5, and you'll see what I mean here in a second. You're going to have the Elevation, you're going to have the AT4, the Denali, and the AT4X. There's also one called the AT4X Edition 1, which we're going to talk about here shortly as well. That's why I call it kind of a half. So we're not seeing a Denali Ultimate. That's not coming our way this year. We're not seeing SLE, SLT, or a Pro package. There's only going to be these 4 trim levels. And by the way, right off the hop, there's only going to be available in the short bed crew cab. So we're not going to have double cab or extended cabs, double cab, and we're not going to have the 6-foot box when it comes to the to this truck, to this new Canyon. And now one of the things they did with this truck and all of the Canyons is they've actually moved the front axle forward, which is basically giving you improved proportions and a more planted level stance. So that's one new change that they've done for this truck, versus the older style. Now, alongside there being no real base trim level, that means that most of these trucks are coming with some pretty cool features right off the hop. Every one of these trucks, with the exception of the AT4X, so the Denali, the Elevation, and the AT4 are all going to come standard with a 2-inch factory lift. When we talk about the AT4X, I'm going to get into more detail on that truck in a moment, but I will tell you that it comes with a 3-inch lift. Now, all 4 of these trucks are going to have their own interior, so they're all going to have a separate interior from one another. With the Denali being outfitted with the laser-etched wood decor, basically an open-pore wood, and leather appointments, while the AT4X has that awesome ceramic white with obsidian rush, unique color scheme. Man, this is one of my favorite interiors I've ever seen in any truck, period. And that's one of the things that lends me towards loving this truck so much. You can even get a red seatbelt in the AT4X as well. So far with the information GMC has provided, I don't really have any pictures, unfortunately, of the Elevation, but we do have some pictures here of the Denali. Of course, the trim looks amazing. I love the new exterior of these trucks. By the way, all LED headlights out front. You're going to have LED daytime driving lights, of course, LED fog lights, LED taillights, LED lights all around. Unlike the Colorado, which the base trims don't have the LED lights, you're going to have LED lights on every trim level of these GMC Canyons. Again, I love the looks of the chrome with the black here on the Denali. Now, as far as the AT4 is obviously going to be looking, similar to the AT4X. Obviously, it's going to be toned down a little bit, clearly. We're going to talk about some of the things the AT4X has here in a moment. But what it will have is the brand new, all of these trucks are going to have the brand new 11.3-inch Google built-in touchscreen. So at least in the upper trim levels, I know the Google built in anyways, but it's going to have 11.3-inch color touchscreen. Again, that is similar to the Colorado, but where it's different is in the higher trim levels, which we're going to talk about here in a second. In the Elevation, however, and in the AT4, you get an 8-inch fully programmable digital screen in front of the driver. But when you step up to the AT4X or the Denali, you are going to get an 11-inch screen in front of that driver. So that is bigger and different than what we're seeing currently in the Colorado lineup. The other thing as a first for this trim level is we're now going to have a 6.3 color HUD heads-up display available in, I think, just the upper trim levels, of course, at least as of right now anyways. So stay tuned for that, because that is another cool thing that we're going to see in this truck that we've not had in this midsize truck in the past. Before we get too far, though, I know you probably want to hear about motors, right? And if you did watch my video on the Chevy Colorados, you know that Colorado and Chevy were offering 3 different engine choices based on the same engine. So gone away, if we didn't already know this, the 3.6 liter is no longer. So no more V6. There's no more diesel 2.8, no more naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. But we do have the 2.7 liter 4-cylinder turbo based off of what, the upgrades they've done with 30% stiffer crank, all that kind of stuff, like we're seeing on the full-size truck, is now being adopted to the GMC Canyon. The difference, however, is that GMC Canyon is only going to offer the top engine, the high output engine, which is basically producing 310 horsepower. And listen to this, 430 foot-pound of torque, 430 foot-pound of torque out of a turbo 4-cylinder. What an engine this is going to be. And I like the fact that GMC is only, doesn't matter what trim level you get, is only offering this higher trim level or higher optioned engine. Now that will pull 7,700 pounds in the Elevation and in the AT4. And then the Denali, the AT4X is going to pull 6,000 pounds. And if you get into, I believe it was 6,000 pounds. But anyways, and if you get into the, if you get into the AT4X, it's going to be pulling 5,500 pounds. Oh, and by the way, with that new engine, the new 2.7, you're also going to have a new, keep this in mind, 8-speed transmission. I know we hear a lot of complaints on whatever reason on my YouTube channel about the 8-speed. This is a new 8-speed transmission that's going to be made into this new 2.7 liter 4-cylinder turbo. Oh, and don't worry, yes, I am going to be getting to the price of these as we get further here in the video. And all these trucks, by the way, are going to come with a brand new standard of safety features, brand new standard safety features, pardon me. So they're going to have a host of new features. There's adaptive cruise on this truck, by the way, here now as well. But I love the fact they're going to have this new standard safety feature right from the bottom trim level, if you want to call Elevation a bottom trim level, and up from there. Before we go too far, one of the things I want to talk about that some people do ask me quite often on here is the fuel tank size, for whatever reason. Now, I don't know the MPGs on this currently, but I can tell you, as far as the fuel tank size, we're looking at 21.5 gallons or 81.4 liters for this new Canyon. Other new features include, of course, a push-button start. We're also going to see a sunroof this year, finally, yes. So we have a sunroof as an option on the upper trim levels. In terms of the interior, I already talked about the screens being different. We're also going to have a relocation. I don't exactly know why. I think I actually know why. A relocation of the gear shifter. It's actually shifted more towards the passenger side. Part of the reason I think that is the case is because now we have a new drive selector that is optioned down beside that gear shifter, but it's more on the side of the driver. So I think that's why they had to move that shifter over. So you had this drive mode selector there. Now the drive modes, by the way, if you didn't know this, and I'm sure you didn't because this truck just came out, but we have 5 different drive modes. We have one called the terrain mode. That's basically your low speed precision off-roading and rock crawling. We have off-road mode, which is your general off-road dynamics. We have normal mode, which is more of a balanced everyday, on-road driving, of course. And then we have the tow haul mode, of course. I don't have to explain what tow haul mode is, right? It's for trailering. And then lastly, we have the Baja mode, which is an AT4 exclusive, and that is for high-speed off-roading. Oh, and along with the off-roading aspect, we're going to be seeing an off-road, real-time off-road performance display, which is going to put things up there like G-force and altimeter and pitch and roll stats as well. The other thing that we have seen on the Chevy Colorado, if you watch that video at all, is we are going to see a watertight storage compartment in that tailgate, right? So if it's anything similar, which I'm sure it probably is, I know the Chevy was about 45 inches long by 4 inches deep. It's going to be a great feature to have back there. And obviously, if you have any equipment you want to put back there, cables or booster cables or an axe or a fishing rod, whatever it is, that's a really cool spot to put that. I would also surmise, I have not seen this in the details yet. My guess would be, though, it's very similar to the Chevy also in the fact that it'll have that lockable portioned up tailgate, so you can lift it up a certain amount in a lock. And I know in the Chevy they're saying it was 500 pounds. They didn't, again, say this in any of the press release I've seen so far, but I would imagine that's going to be coming. Now, no multi-pro tailgate, though. I was kind of wondering about that. The other thing that I didn't see, and I'm not seeing, they did say it's not going to be coming in the Colorado, and I didn't see an aspect of it coming in this truck, so I'm guessing it's not. No Super Cruise. Now, I would suspect that we're going to probably see Super Cruise in this truck potentially down the line. They're trying to add it to a lot of their higher end vehicles. The downside being, of course, is supply, right? So if you're going to have Super Cruise components, you're going to put those on the Escalades and Denali Ultimates and things like that first, and then it'll eventually trickle down as those components probably become available. But we got to talk about the AT4X. This seems to be the truck that GMC is definitely focusing on during this release because it has release, it's a new truck, it's a new model of the new truck. And you know, it's got all the upper echelon interior features, but on the outside and off-road capabilities, just like its big brother in the Sierra AT4X, it hits it out of the park with its features. So first and foremost, of course, we're going to have things like the underbody camera. So there's now 10 optional 10 camera views. We are going to have front and rear camera views on the AT4X available. And when we talk about Edition 1, I'll tell you more about that in a second. But they're actually washable, waterproof and washable cameras, which is a really cool thing. We're also going to see the heads-up display, of course, which I talked about earlier. Fully digital driver's information center. We talked about that, of course. Now they're going to have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, which I would hope and assume, right? And then, of course, the available Google built-in. Now, what I mentioned earlier, though, is going to have the 3-inch factory lift, which is really cool. That means it's going to have a 10.7-inch ground clearance and a 36.9-degree approach angle. I don't think we've ever seen a mid-size truck in our, I know we have it in our lineup that has that kind of ground clearance. By the way, just going back for a second, if I want to talk about the other trucks, with the 2-inch lift, they have a 9.6-inch ground clearance. So all these trucks are getting to be closer to the full-size trucks as opposed to being mid-size truck, and you'll see in the pricing as well, actually, when we get to that. But the other things, of course, is we're going to have an actual 33-inch mud terrain tire. Now, 32-inch tires are going to be the standard size on the Elevation, the AT4, and the Denali. But we're looking at a 33-inch tire, finally, a bigger tire on the AT4X. Also, of course, you can't have an AT4X or you also can't have a like a ZR2 or a ZR2 in the Colorado without the Multimatic DSSV, the high-end suspension. I absolutely love the suspension. I've talked about it ad nauseum, I'm sure, especially after driving the AT4Xs down the desert and putting it through its paces a little bit. I'm very impressed with the AT4X, the AT4X suspension in the Multimatic because, again, if you haven't heard me say this before, what I love about it is it handles the whoops like crazy, it handles the off-road, no problem. But then when you want to drive in the city, you want to drive on the highway, you want to go cross country with it, whatever it is, it doesn't rattle the teeth out of your head because it adjusts to the terrain you're on. It gets stiffer in the harder on the harder terrain, and when it's a regular terrain, it gets softer, so it gives you that better ride. There is no better compromise. I haven't driven a truck that has the suspension that Multimatic SSV offers, DSSV, offers. I love this suspension. They're also going to have, of course, the front and rear e-lockers that we've seen for the last few years on the ZR2 Colorado, and now we're obviously seeing in the full-size AT4X. So the front and rear e-lockers are a nice option, and more underbody skid plates underneath the AT4X as well. And again, that exclusive Baja drive mode that I mentioned just a bit ago. Now, there is a truck coming out called the AT4X Edition 1. GMC went as far as to highlight, to put an asterisk beside this, saying it's extremely limited availability. I think that goes without saying. These trucks are probably going to be extremely limited availability to begin with through the first year, and you're talking about this Edition 1, it's going to be even more limited. Now, this looks to be, it's going to be like a pre-order truck only, of course, again, because of limited availability to it. By the way, ordering is open up now, my understanding is, so check out the websites after. But in terms of the truck itself, what it has above and beyond, we've already talked about the AT4X having, so that the nice interior, all that kind of stuff. I didn't mention it also has the safety alert seat. The AT4X did, so of course the AT4X Edition 1 will. Heated and cooled seats in the AT4X as well as the Denali, obviously. But this AT4X Edition 1 is also going to add these few things. It's going to have it's automatically going to have the front and rear underbody cameras with the wash function. It's going to have the off-road bumper with the safari bar, much like we're seeing in the Desert Boss, right, in the ZR2 Colorado. We're also going to have front 30-inch off-road grill light bar. What a cool looking light bar that is. We're also going to have a winch built in by Come Up. So it's a winch by Come Up that's going to be a standard feature on this AT4X Edition 1. Not to mention 17-inch beadlock wheel, so it's got a different wheel than the regular AT4X. A reconfigurable, bed rail system and the unique Edition 1 tailgate badge. So those are some things that are coming specific on this brand new Edition 1 AT4X. But let's talk about the price, because GMC, unlike Chevy, actually said what the entry price are going to be. And actually, before we get to the pricing, I want to talk to you about when these trucks are supposed to be coming. Again, like the Chevys, and I would surmise they're being in the same build in the same plant, which is Wentzville, Missouri, American made. We're supposed to be seeing these trucks being built the start of 2023. So we should start seeing these toward the start of the year. So that's a good sign. Hopefully, obviously, fingers crossed, everything goes okay as far as the world is concerned and chips and all that kind of stuff. But pricing is going to start on all trim levels. I'm going to talk about the AT4X Edition 1 though after. All trim levels at $40,000 US is the estimated starting price of these trucks. So that's going to get you, of course, in your elevation first. Now, the Edition 1, hear me out. You got to remember, okay, before I tell you this price, this has got a lot of features in this truck. The only problem I have is it is a midsize truck at the end of the day, and it's going to be hard for some people when they're looking at the midsize truck versus a full-size truck, right? The Edition 1 pricing is coming at a starting price of $63,653. So $63,650 for a mid-sized truck, although loaded, it is loaded, and the fit and finish is amazing on this thing. That's where we're starting in price for that truck. I would love to hear your thoughts about this brand new 2023 GMC Canyon. I love it. I'm curious what you think. What do you think of the price? And what do you think of the features? Is there something that was missing? Something you were hoping that it had? Maybe things you didn't expect to have that it had? I would love to hear your comments below. As always, stay tuned for the next video. Take care, everybody.